So it's good to be with you. I am so I'm off video. I normally would be on video. I have a eye issue, and so my family are making lots of like pirate jokes and things because I have a I have an eye patch, and so I'll just spare you that. But super happy to be with you. And if I could get the host to get a screen share privileges, I'll pop a few slides up. Uh, so I was with you on the very first kickoff. Was able to spend just a few minutes talking about a continuous improvement approach that we would be focused on through the community of practice, and that's we're just going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into that today. Um, uh, so here's what you can expect. We have Maisha is also with who you know. You met Maisha our last meeting, and she'll be coming in after me to talk a little bit more about what we will be doing in the breakouts. We also have Annabelle Allard that's with us, and she's going to help me make sure that I'm seeing the chat. Any questions you have, of course, we definitely want you to ask questions through the chat or out loud, raise a hand or whatever, and she's going to help me make sure that I don't miss any of that. But we'll just dive right in. Can you see the screen? I shared. I hope I shared the screen. Okay, perfect. Uh, so just a little bit of background, so you know where I'm coming from and what we're talking about here, and you know what SOVA even is. So the first thing, I just have to be very transparent. I'm from Kentucky. This project, working with a collaborative, working with all of you, is something that I just immediately jumped at because I left the state about now, gosh, I can't believe it, almost 15 years ago now, uh, to work. I was in Seattle for some time, and I'm in DC now. But I was at 10 years at Western Kentucky University, uh, and I worked at the CPE. I was as a fellow. I worked on the regional stewardship program, so in 27 counties in WKU's service region. And so I'm from Simpson County, Gold City. No one will know where Gold City is, but that's where I'm from. And so it's just so good to be connected to you through this work. Our firm, SOVA, we're laser focused on implementation work. So we help institutions or systems or networks, anybody that serves open and broad access uh, uh, institutions, help them figure out how to implement student success strategies. That's what we do. That's all we do. And so the way that we do a lot of this work is through a continuous improvement approach, because there's so much. One of the things, and you all know, there's no shortage of ideas on campuses. There's no shortage of brilliance. I mean, you're just packed of smart people and well-meaning, in it for all the right reasons, people. But so often, a lot of ideas that are really for our students and should be to benefit our students just don't reach their full potential. And Allison Cadlick and I, when we started SOVA, that was the problem we were trying to solve. What can we do to do our part? What little we can do to help institutions be able to better serve students, get those good ideas into practice, get things that are kind of at pilot level at scale, that kind of problem. And so we were both trained in implementation and improvement science at various parts in our career. And so we really brought that over and translated this into really just, we would like to think anyway, sort of user-friendly, practical ways for campuses to use. Now, as a disclaimer, right up front, if you like Google implementation science or improvement science, you're gonna feel immediately like you've got to go get another degree because it is an area of study. It has its own vocabulary, like everything else academic. But one of the things I want to encourage us all is that's not, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go buy anything. You don't even have to read anything. We can just do this in very simple terms. Um, this is something that I mentioned when we were together, when I was with you very briefly at the kickoff of the community practice. But But just as a, quick agenda overlook today, uh, well, I'll emphasize again why the continuous improvement approach is important for this work, specifically for you, and what you need to know about continuous improvement cycles. Now, the way that we have this divided up today, we're talking very specifically about the driver diagram. And next time we'll be talking about the continuous improvement plans that come out of that experience of those driver diagrams. So we'll do like half of that today, and the other half next time we're together. And then we'll be spending some time in breakout, so you can get to work on this. You can begin to surface questions, run up against the kinds of challenges that you'll have in doing this, and we're here with you. And to that last point, we're here with you today, and we're also with you throughout this process. So the collaborative, they've set this experience up, and they have a number of ways that they're touching base with you, providing information, like through the impact exchange, like Lily just shared. But also we're available to the collaborative and ultimately to you. If you have any questions about this process or ways that we can help you in it, feel free to reach out to the collaborative, and we'll support them in supporting you. So I want to make sure that's clear as we move along here. I'm not going to spend much time on this. I just want to emphasize that this slide and the next is, I'm emphasizing it because it is super easy to say why we focus on a continuous improvement approach, but it is particularly for academics. Now, I can say I should just I was a faculty member as well, and me and my colleagues, this is not something that academics do well, and but we're really good at like figuring everything out, and what are all the possible questions, what are all the possible solutions, and then put a plan together and then go do it. Right? That's what it feels like. That feels like what's right when it comes to problem solving. Right? Like strategic planning, tons of upfront work, plan out for 5 years exactly what you're going to do, then execute it. But the reality is that is hardly ever how change happens. Now, I'm not suggesting you just wander off blindly and do stuff. You should have a clear picture and a clear idea of where you're going, what's on the horizon and what are you aiming for. But change is so constant, particularly in your environments, that if you do things like 3-year plans and for this kind of work, then you're in week 2 and something's already changed. I know you experience this daily, and so the way the steps to take is to just take the first one. Just take the first step, see what you learn, see what happens, see what questions are answered and which questions are then raised, and then you use that to take the next step and then the next step, right? And so that is what continuous improvement is, bite-sized steps toward answering a problem and learning on each step of the way, right? And so that's why we focus on continuous improvement, generally speaking, in our work with higher education, and specifically when it comes to discrete issues like student basic needs, because it's the kind student basic needs is an area in which it means everything and nothing, to people, depending on who you're talking to. People have a sense of the comprehensive nature of students' needs. But even students themselves, you might see on campuses, may not even know what to do or where to go or who to ask or what's available, right? So it does require a lot of in-time, real-time learning and course correction and so forth. So that's why we take this approach, and I would say not necessarily, it's not absent of sort of technologies and things like that. I realize most of you probably have some helpful technologies, but it is sort of accepting there are no silver bullets, right? It does take complex work with other people. And in that same way, this is, and I want to emphasize this again, and we'll dive right into this as we jump into the breakout groups today, is the goal is not to be comprehensive. And you'll see we'll have a template provided for you to help you think about this, but it's just to say What are we trying to achieve? First of all, and I suspect that many of you are very far down this road already. So you've got a big jump on that. And then you step back and you say, like, what's in our way? What are the big barriers? Doesn't have to be every single barrier. Just what are the top 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it come to mind, that's in your way. And then asking questions about, what is the first thing we can do to help, have it, what's the first idea or first thing we can do to help push that barrier and drive, it's usually called the driver diagram, and drive toward the goal we're trying to meet, right? So it's thinking very specifically about those big areas. Again, today, just talking about the driver diagram, we'll be spending our time only on that, but we do want you to know that it's not just about creating a driver diagram. There are tools that you can use in terms of creating plans that result from the driver diagram that help you actually execute your work. And that's what we'll be talking about next time. So a driver diagram, super simple. It's you don't have to buy anything. There's no software for this. If you've got like a pencil and paper or a whiteboard or a Miro board or in today's case a Jamboard, and good people to think with, that's what you need. Now, one of the things we will reference here, going back to the conversation last time about building your team, it is important once you start, you'll see once we jump to the driver diagram, it is something that's difficult to do by yourself in isolation. Like, you're going to have an understanding of the experiences you have on your campus when it comes to doing this work, but ideally you're able to engage either as a part of your team or as a part of your identified stakeholders. Like, what are other people's perceptions of the barriers? What are other people's, quite honestly, where are other people's leverage? Because we've all experienced, like, hitting a wall, something we want to do for our students and we hit the wall, but we realize, oh, we got to have that dean or that provost or somebody to help us through that. And that is the kinds of things you'll have to ultimately, over the course of this, think about. But the driver diagram, as you will see, is just about taking something really complicated, breaking it down in sort of doable sets of activities, or we oftentimes use this language of it like a change idea. It's okay, just start with an idea, and build on that. And the last thing is just to point out is, depending on how visible this work is on your campus, one of the things that we've heard from institutions over the years in doing this is that, now I know, like last time, I think if I remember, I think it was NKU that spoke, and I think this was a massive initiative already, on your campus. So you probably have a ton of visibility and a ton of shared understanding on your campus about what you're doing. But many times when we're doing things like this, you'll have a sort of a diligent group of folks trying to do something that's not widely understood across the campus. And one of the things this kind of activity does is it helps you build a really, quite honestly, just a really clean, clear theory of action for what you're doing. And so when you go through the process that we'll be going through beginning today, it should leave you something very practical in your hands. That when anybody else on your campus, any stakeholders, colleagues, people that you might report up to or something like that, it gives you a very clear way to talk about what you're doing and how you intend to do it. All right, so it has a very practical purpose in that way as well. Now, the driver diagram itself, and again, this is it. It's not magic. There's no special tool. This is the process. In any place that you can get your thoughts and ideas out in front of one another to discuss, that's it. That's all you need. What you do focus on are these elements. The first is just being really clear about what you're trying to address. What's your priority? And I should say this, 100% of the time. We've been doing this for many, many years, and 100% of the time, what people say when they're serious about this and they really go through this process, they will say something along the lines of, "Oh, we stew in this every day. So I felt like I know this stuff, but when I sit down with my colleagues and I have to write it down, they're like, oh, this gives us a whole other level of clarity about what is our priority, what is a specific goal, what exactly are our barriers, and so forth. And so as you look at this, it seems kind of common sense, but if you push yourself through the process, I expect that you'll find it helpful to put clear, concise words to each of these areas. The first big one, what the problem you're trying to solve. I know we're focused here on student basic needs, so it's going to be, of course, something specific to that. Now, a SMART goal. Now, this is kind of a process of kind of cooking a big thing down, and if you have this big priority area of what you're trying to solve, determining what aspect of that can be set as a SMART goal. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody probably has worked with SMART goals, but that's an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound or timed. And so and I'm going to give you an example in just a moment. So taking first your big priority area and then creating just a single SMART goal out of that. And again, I'll show you an example in just a moment. And then if you look at that SMART goal, you ask yourself, well, what's the primary blockers? And you don't have to spend a ton of time on that because, again, you're living it every day. So you feel the big ones. So just name those big things that are in your way. Put clear words on them, right? So everybody around the table can look at it and say, yes, that makes sense. That's exactly what I'm experiencing as well, or something of that nature. And then the next thing is then to look at each one of those barriers and say, well, what can we do about that? And it's not to suggest you can do any one thing that solves it. But again, the idea is to do something that you can do, something you can control that pushes, drives. This is the driver diagram language that drives toward addressing that barrier that ultimately drives toward meeting your goal. And you'll see once we get into our next meeting, this actually sets up cycles. So yes, just in this one instance, it may be just this one change idea or project that you do, but it's actually on a cycle. So you'll do that one, you'll learn from it, then you do another. You'll learn from that one, then you'll do another. And that experience builds on itself. And what we hear so often is it just feels like you're taking steps. So sometime down the road, you look back and you go, oh my, you said we've actually traveled quite a ways, a step at a time, right? And it's been very intentional. You've learned. And that is that's the real gift of continuous improvement. Here's an example. I made this up based on another work with another campus, but I changed the language to sort of reflect more sort of student basic needs types of related things. But you can see here the priority area for this campus is materials and processes related to doing the work of student basic needs are just confusing internally and externally. We got to solve that problem. That's a problem. And then they in this case, turned that problem into a very specific goal. And that was to complete a comprehensive audit of both internal and external materials by, again, a time certain by the end of the 21-22 academic year. That includes a third-party review for clear and equitable language to aid students in navigating campus resources and strengthening their sense of belonging. Right. So they turned a big problem into a goal that had all of those that met all of those elements in terms of being specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And these, I won't read through all these, but you can see they identified initially and very quickly, these are the primary barriers that are going to get in the way of that. And then you see on the rightmost column a list of things, discrete things that this particular campus is going to do, right? And again, I just want to stress, just looking at the top one, creating a task force to draft the plan. We know, everybody knows that that's not going to solve the problem. But what it does, it is a discrete thing that addresses a barrier that then begins this process of taking steps, cycles toward ultimately meeting the priority or goal. Now, now I'm going to show you very quickly just where well, actually, I don't know if it will, but let me actually stop right there. And I'll just say this out loud, is where this is pointing to next time is, now that you have the rightmost column, now what do we do about that? Who does what, when, and how, right? And that's exactly the question that we will be diving into next time. But today we're going to want to pause for a moment and see if, while we're in a big group, are there any questions, any thoughts about this, any concerns, or anything anybody would want to share. And then at that point, after if there is any other questions, we'll take whatever time we need, and then I'll tag Maisha, and we'll go to breakouts. So Lily, I'll pause here, and then just if there's any questions at all, or if there are things in the chat, if somebody could just let me know what those are, then I'll be happy to speak to them.
Thanks, Paul.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat right now, Paul.
Okay, great. And let me just ask this, and not everybody has to answer this, but I am just curious, generally speaking, is this an approach you're familiar with, or some version? You'll see a lot of similarities with like agile project management approaches. There are some similarities, so maybe you're familiar with that. But is this familiar to you, or feel new to you, new and or interesting to you? I'm just curious, before we jump out, your general reaction to this approach.
Well, I think my Bellarmine friends will probably think this might look a little bit like a goal tree, which are some of the ways that we did some work previously there. So this might be familiar.
Good.
In the chat, Gina Embry says it's similar to me at JCTC.
Excellent. Good.
And Jill Hunter said it's new, but definitely interesting and has a satisfying logic to it.
Excellent. Yeah, the goal is that it makes you feel less anxious. That's what we're aiming for. You got big things on your plate all day long. We want things to help organize it for you.
Paul, Teresa Conway added new and interesting.
Excellent. So so I'll just one last comment, and then I will tag Maisha here. One of the things that we'll be doing today as well is moving in and out of the groups with you, and it's going to be helpful for us to get an idea of where you actually are in this process, because you may be way far down the road, and you might be able to sit here today and fill this thing out, but we want and they need to know that, because no matter where you are in this process, we want to be there to support you. And so that's also what we'll be listening for as well, is just to get a basic idea of what you're working on and how far along you are. Right. So Maisha, I'll hand it off to you here, and I'll stop sharing.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be back with you. For those that joined us, I think in the January meeting on building your team, it's great to see many of your faces again. And for those who are just joining us today for the driver diagram workshop, happy to meet your acquaintance. And I'm hoping that we can certainly help to facilitate at least the beginnings of this work for your campuses. And to Paul's point about the driver diagram, it is very much a collaborative and iterative process. And so, that's the beautiful thing about communities of practice is that it's a community where you can learn and grow from each other. It's a learning process. And so before I transition you to the small groups, are there any questions that the community at large, before we break out into our smaller communities, any questions that you might have for each other, any points of insight that you might want to share before we break out into the next activity? You can give me a reaction. You can give me something in the chat, or you can come off mute, whatever your choice. But hearing, so I'll pause for a moment. All right. So hearing none. Lily, if you can pass me, do I have co-host privileges to share? Awesome. So I'm going to explain what we're going to do next. So I'm going to share, let me see if I can share my screen with you. So exactly what Paul shared with you in terms of the visual of the driver diagram. This is it's exactly the same way. The only thing I did was color code it. So I'm just going to explain to you how Jamboard works. It's a collaborative tool that we often use in many of our activities. And so for today, I've separated it out by campus. Okay, so you'll find your campus at the top. And the way that you navigate between the frames is right at the top with the arrows. If you can follow me, give me a thumbs up with your reaction or with your actual thumb. I'll take either. But every frame has a designated space for your campus. All right. And so you're going to start, like Paul said, with a big driver, a priority. What is a complex issue that you've identified around student basic needs for your campus? And so you're going to begin to, you can choose this from this menu over here. You can choose to write. There's a pen. There's an eraser if you make a mistake there. There are sticky notes. There are images and shapes and text boxes that you can use to add your ideas, to contribute your ideas. And so just for an example, I will just share the sticky note and what that looks like. You can change the colors if you like to represent who you are. And you just add it right where you want to make your contribution. So I just added zone of genius to your priority area, right? And so you want to stick it there and then have a discussion around what's the problem that we're trying to solve. And so all your ideas go into that block. And then you want to, from there, you want to move into like, what's the goal? What's the big goal in being able to address the priority area? Then you want to move into those barriers. There are 3 blocks there to be able to address what's in the way, what could potentially be in the way. And then you want to move into the action work, which will be your improvement projects. So what is the work that we actually have to do on our campuses to be able to promote the change that we want to see in that priority area to be able to address directly the SMART goal? I know sometimes I speak a little fast and I might have run through it. If this is a new tool for folks, I just want to pause and make sure you don't have any questions about that. We all set? Sound doable? Like we can work with that? Awesome. So I'm going to stop sharing. Stop sharing. And so breakout rooms have been created for you. And they are going to be live in just a second, and they've been named per your campus, by your campus. And so once they're open, just select your you're going to select your campus name to join the breakout room. And in the chat down here, you will find the actual Jamboard. So access the Jamboard via the link in the chat. And I'll be popping in and out along with Paul and Annabelle, just to see how things are going. Any questions before we move over? Okay, hang on. Looks like I got to do something with the access. Thank you for that. You gotta love privacy settings, right? All right, let's see. I don't want to share with people. Others can change permission. Viewers and comments can see. Viewers and comments can see the options to download. Restricted only. Got it. Nope. Restricted. Anyone with the link. And done. All right, give it a go now. There, I can see you popping in. Okay, so if we're all set, happy jamming, and I'll see you in the breakouts.
Does everyone know how to join the breakout?
Okay.
You
No.
should have had a pop-up message for breakout rooms in progress. And if you scroll down, you'll see individual institutions named, and you can just click the join button for your campus.
Mhm.
Repeat that one more time where you find the breakout.
Do you have a pop-up screen right now that says breakout rooms in progress? No?
No.
No.
It might be down in the bottom right-hand corner of the black bar, well, towards the bottom of it. Do you see the leave button? It's like two
Yeah.
places over to the left. There's a bunch of
Oh.
squares. It says breakout rooms. If you click on that, and then that should give you the option for different rooms. Sure.
Thank you.
Tanya, are you there? Are you having any issues? Okay.
Okay.
And then-
Debbie, Melisha, can we help you? Can we help you get over?
Okay, she's done. And Debbie is with the system office, so she said she didn't need to join a specific team.
Okay. Okay.
Great. Well, this is a great group. Holy cow, lots of folks. Can somebody just send me wherever you'd like for me to go, and I'll jump in to help.
All righty.
Can you go to EKU, Paul?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Beth, do you want to go to Maysville?
Mhm.
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna give Bellarmine a minute, and I'll definitely jump into Bellarmine. Is there two Mayesvilles?
No, it should be Murray.
Maysville. MCTC and Maysville are the same campus, my
Oh,
friend.
they are. Okay, Mercy. Okay, so let me. Should I move? I'll move Teresa and Tanya into. Got it.
MCTC. And then Annabelle, are you also able to jump in? Okay, great. Could you jump into Murray State?
Yes,
And then, oh, go ahead.
Do you just want us to stay there, or do you want us to pop into different places, or just stay where we go?
Well, we do have one we don't have enough people for everybody. So if Maisha, if you can go to U of L, then that still leaves JCTC. I might start with JCTC and then pop into Bellarmine, or maybe I'll start in Bellarmine real quickly and then pop over to JCTC. But yeah, so stay in your room unless they're totally good and jamming, and then come back out and we can talk more.
Okay, yeah, because I was thinking maybe so about 2:10
Okay,
or two. Want to come back at 2:05 maybe?
that sounds good.
Okay. See you soon.
I'm gonna pop into Bellarmine and then I'll hit JCTC.
The 5 that were pre.
This meeting is being recorded.
Is it? Hey guys.
Hey, Lily.
Good. Everybody okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Well, I figured you guys would be the most self-sufficient team of anybody. Do you have anything I can help with, or just to help get things kicked off?
I think we're in view only. Someone said it already in the chat that it's view only.
I posted. We can't edit anything on the Jamboard
Oh, yeah,
piece.
yeah.
Like,
Okay. I'll leave. I'll go get it fixed and I'll be right back.
Thanks.
cool. Thanks.
I need to pause that recording.